Sleep is so important. And if I don't get enough sleep, my IQ drops dramatically, and I really need all the help I can get. I also get grouchy and irritable if I don't sleep well. I actually track my sleep pretty closely with my smartwatch, so I could tell if I don't sleep that well, but also I just wake up in a bad mood. One of the keys is a great mattress, and I just got a Ghost Bed Luxe, and I absolutely love it. Ghost Bed has patented cooling technology, and the Luxe has the coolest rating in their lineup. They actually have a ton of different mattresses. And the Luxe has a cool to the touch quilted cover. Being cool while sleeping has been so impactful for me. And if I'm hot, I just keep tossing and turning. So the cool cover actually makes a huge difference. Now the Luxe, it's a little bit softer than the Classic. And I tried out Carl's. I went over to his house and laid in his bed. And he has the Classic. And it was a little bit too firm for me. So if you're not sure which mattress to get, you can go to Ghost Bed and take their sleep quiz. It just takes a couple minutes and they'll make a recommendation for you. Don't worry, you get a 101 night at-home sleep trial, and they have a 20-year warranty. And they also have a full range of products like adjustable bases, like if you want a split king situation, so you could raise your feet up and raise everything up. And they have bedding and pillows and anything you need to sleep better. And you can save 50% with the code MileHiFi at checkout, or you can go to ghostbed.com/MileHiFi. And we really appreciate the support from Ghost Bed. So go check out what they have over there, and let's get to the show. Hey, what's going on? Welcome to the MileHiFi podcast. And today I'm chatting with my friend Kristen Knapp. Kristen, how's it going today?
It is going all right. I'm getting over a little bit of a cold, so I apologize for the slightly froggy voice.
Well, thanks for getting out of bed and joining me today. And I haven't told you personally, but you're my favorite meteorologist. And you recently... Now, I don't watch the weather every day for St. Louis, but you do a great job.
Wait, have you actually ever seen me do the weather?
I think I have watched a clip before.
Okay. They're not hard to find. They're all over the internet. Yeah.
So favorite meteorologist, no joke. And you semi-retired pretty recently. You're in a CoastFi situation, and we're going to talk about some of those details. And it's been a few months since you've kind of slowed down and you're just working part-time. So we're going to talk about all of that, including making the decision to coast and go down to part-time hours. We'll talk about the impact that the FI community had on you and kind of, I guess, gave you the confidence a little bit to do it. And navigating the transition, potential identity crisis when you go from a professional, especially in your industry, to a regular normal person. So that could be tough for some people, and what to do with your free time. So we're going to talk about all those details. I think we'll have to work hard to actually fit it into the time that we have allotted here. So if we don't get to something, we'll come back to it in the future. Now, for the people that don't know you, Kristen, could you give a little bit of an intro of your background? And, maybe you could talk about your, professional background and then kind of how you got involved in the FI community.
Okay, so I am a broadcast meteorologist. I have been doing that for 28 years. I am a big old weather nerd. I grew up just being fascinated by weather, and that's how I came to choose that as a profession. I didn't go to journalism school. I went to meteorology school, so I'm a big science geek. As far as the FI community, I grew up in Kentucky with very, very little. So I was always frugal out of necessity. It wasn't so much a personality trait. It was just like I had to be to survive, but I brought those things with me into adulthood. And when I first found out this word fire in the FI community, it just resonated very deeply. I'm like, well, I'm already kind of living that way. It just really hit home. So I started going down all the FI rabbit holes and reading the books, and listening to the podcasts. And I went to my first in-person event in 2022, and I was hooked. I was done. It was all she wrote. I found my tribe.
That's awesome. And so it's crazy. So it was only like a little over 2 years ago when you were introduced to the FI community?
Well, I suppose I found the word fire and read my first book probably in 2018, actually. I just went to my first in-person event in
Got it.
2022. And I wish I would have started sooner because I'm obsessed and I love it so much and it's my favorite thing in the world.
What was that first event?
It was CampFI Rocky Mountain Week 1 in Colorado Springs, 2022. Had no idea what I was walking into. It's so funny because I ended up losing my voice. Seems like this happens a lot to me. No, but that weekend, it wasn't because of a cold. That weekend, it was because I was just, when you meet somebody and feel like you have so much in common, you just can't stop talking to each other. There's just so much to talk about. And it was the craziest thing because I didn't know any of these people. I mean, I knew my one friend that I went with who encouraged me to go, but I go into this place and you think about how hard it is as an adult to make a new friend, let alone, God forbid, somebody you have something in common with, right? And you show up at a CampFI and you realize you have so much in common with all of these people. You've made like 20, 30 new best friends in a weekend. I ended up having this crazy FOMO. I didn't want to go to bed. I didn't want to miss any of the conversation. So yeah, I lose my voice. So I learned after that first CampFI, always pack cough drops and 5-hour energy when I go to a FI event. It's so interesting because you find, at least this is what I found, that when your money values align, so many other things align as well. And you just find that you have so much in common. And they're just, gosh, they're such good people. Everybody's just so kind and so generous with their time and their knowledge. And, people say after camp, they're like, oh, come visit me or whatever. They're not, they're serious. Like they're not just blowing smoke. They're not just being nice. I thought it was so weird in the beginning. I was like, wait, you just went to visit so-and-so in Colorado and now I'm doing it. Yeah, I'm right there. I'm going to be in Longmont in December. I can't wait. I've been wanting to come forever.
It's really amazing and good call on the cough drops. The other part, now that you've been to several, have you been to like 5 or 6 at this point?
Yeah. Economies and CampFIs. Yeah. It's
so fun, but turns out you can go to bed early and you won't miss out on too much. But you have to go to a couple and then you realize it. Because I still occasionally make the bad decision and stay up too late and have a couple too many drinks. But I try to make sure it's not too often. But yeah, you can go to bed.
You have
early.
To pace yourself. I've learned to be better about pacing myself.
Yeah. And I've lost my voice like way too many times. So that's my kryptonite, I guess. Okay. Well, you mentioned before that you were a little bit frugal and, the fact that you found sort of the FI concepts in the last few years, you were probably doing a lot of things right. So before we get into the Coast FI stuff, can you talk about how you put yourself in a position, how you managed your money previously, and like if anything changed as you were introduced to more ideas in 2018 and then the community in 2022 and all that stuff?
The main things were like I knew what a mutual fund was. Didn't know index funds yet, but knew mutual funds and knew that would be a better option than trying to pick individual stocks. So I had that part right. I knew that when I went to work for my employer, I had to at least put enough money into my 401k to get the match because that was throwing away free money and I was never going to do that. So even if I didn't have enough money left at the end of the month to buy gas, I was getting that match. And that's how it was for a long time, actually. Unfortunately, my credit card debt really blossomed in my 20s because by the time I paid my bills every month, there wasn't anything left over to feed myself, right? But I always got that match. And I tell you what, I don't know then if I really understood this magic of compounding, but man, it's true. It takes forever to really get going, but once you get to that first 100K, it really takes off. And I'm so glad I started when I started because even though it was hard, those early years of putting that money away has made such a difference for me now.
Very good. I'm not sure if this question will go anywhere, but I'll ask anyway and see. So you're on TV in St. Louis, you are a meteorologist on air, right?
Yeah.
And it seems like it's celebrity adjacent where maybe, you talked about credit card debt and it's it seems like maybe you have to have an outward appearance of I'm a celebrity in the local community. I need to dress nice. I need to have a nice car. Did that have any impact on your spending and your in your 20s, 30s, or at any point in time. Do you see where I'm going with this?
Yeah, I do. It's funny. I just don't really care about the keeping up with the Joneses stuff so much. I can remember meeting people in my life who were just shocked that I rolled up in a Honda. They couldn't believe I didn't drive a luxury car. I don't care. That's fine. When people see me on TV, I imagine they probably assume that the outfits that I wear cost more than they do, but I get them on Amazon. So most of them, not all of them, but a lot of them. So as long as it looks good on the air and my car gets me from A to B, I don't really worry a whole lot about the other stuff.
Very good. All right. So you decided to go part-time very recently. Can you talk about the impact that the FI community had on your decision-making process?
Well, can I step back for a minute and just kind of talk about why I did this? Because here's the thing. There were several things that went into this decision. I've been working for 28 years, so it's not like I've just been doing this for a minute. I'm tired. In addition, I am now the age that my mother was when she received the cancer diagnosis that would take her life the following year. Last year, I lost a friend about my age to colon cancer. There were some things at my work. Part of the job I really, really enjoyed. Part of the job stressed me out a lot. So the idea that I could get rid of the part that stressed me out a lot and keep the part that I like, to give myself more autonomy over my time, to do the things that I love to do, the things that bring me joy, and not have to do the things that I feel like I have to do so much anymore, the work stuff. But it really was, I think, losing a friend that was that I don't know what expression I want to use, but that was kind of like the nail in the coffin, if you will. Like that was the moment that I was like, okay, it is time to make these changes. And then it happened pretty quickly after that. But the idea was put into my head by a FI person, somebody, my very good friend, Eric Cooper. You might know him as Mr. 72T. He's been making the rounds on the podcast, talking about the 72T process and pulling money out of your retirement accounts early. But he was one of the first people I met in 2001 when I moved to Louisville, Kentucky. So we've had a lot of life experiences together. But his suggestion to me about going part-time was more of a identity crisis thing. I think he thought, because I'd been this broadcast meteorologist for so long, that it was going to be very hard to go from being known for that to overnight just not that anymore, right? So he was like, well, what if you just kind of slowly ramped down? And I thought that made a lot of sense. But that was put into my head by him over a year ago, but it was kind of in the back of my head, right? But then when the other things started happening, especially the loss of my friend, then it just really all kind of cemented in my brain to make this happen. I know I kind of went sideways. I think your original question, tell me what the original question was again.
How the FI community
played
a role in it. But all of that does come together because, many of the conversations that we have are around like the limited amount of life that we have. And like a lot of us were like over saving for like way too long. And there's other options, right? Like you don't have to get to 100%. You could kind of go into a semi-retirement situation, part-time, that sort of thing.
Let me tell you why I love the FI community. Oh my gosh. It brings me such joy, gives me a sense of purpose, but puts these ideas out there that you just don't hear in the non-FI world, right? Like I don't have kids. Now there's plenty of women out there who work and then maybe they go part-time because they have kids. What reason do I have, right? In the non-FI world, I think you would be expected to have a better reason than just because I want to, right? But in FI land, as I like to call it, it's all about this life design and living this extraordinary life and using our finances as that tool, right? In order to create that life. I've actually heard a lot of people in the community in the last few years talking about happiness, and a lot of that can come from subtracting some of the negative things. So to be able to take away the things at work that I didn't enjoy, right? And to still be able to work some and do this thing that I enjoy, but be able to spend more time on the things that I really love. Like I run our local Choose FI St. Louis group. That brings me a lot of joy and a sense of purpose. I wanted to travel more, so I'm doing more of that. So this is not anything that probably would have ever occurred to me outside of the FI community, let alone would I ever have had the confidence in a million trillion years to actually go and do it. Because when nobody in your universe is doing these things, right? Like think about sabbaticals, people in the FI community doing sabbaticals. Like outside of the FI community, I don't know anybody doing that stuff. But when people around you are doing it and you see that it's working and it makes all the sense in the world once you start thinking about it. But let's be honest, it's a little countercultural. But when you're surrounded by other people who are making these decisions and bettering their lives, it gives you the confidence to do such. And in addition, it also gave me the skills to know that I could, working out through the math and figuring out that I was CoSFI, which, what does that mean? So it kind of led me to realize that I was in a good place.
All right. I'm going to jump and get into the math just a little bit here. So you told me before that you never used a spreadsheet. Is that right?
Do I lose my FI card? Am I revoked?
What do you do then? You get like graph paper and you map it all out, or how
Not even.
Okay. What do you do?
If you looked at the first net worth statement I did, I still have it from 2012. It's just a pen and paper.
Okay.
I just wrote it down. Plus, minus, easy peasy. Most of my stuff is that way. And I'm a numbers person. I really am. I just never was taught how to do a spreadsheet. I never took that class. Never had a reason to do one. And my system feels like it works for me. So why fix it if it ain't broke, right?
All right. That's cool. It sounds bananas to me, I'll be honest with you, Kristen, but it illustrates like how simple like you can make it. Like I think you probably lose some of the capabilities of like doing projections and then changing the projections like easily by just changing like one cell. And that's like
what's a cell?
Yeah, I know. We're talking about a different world here. So anyway, like you probably lose a little bit of the like quickness, but you obviously can still like redo the calculations. And the good part is like other people, well, we fucking love spreadsheets around here, right? So like you probably were able to give someone your handwritten paper, I imagine it on a used napkin or something like that, and then say, here, put this in a spreadsheet. And then they're like, oh, we can simulate this whole thing. And
actually, no, I've never done that. I probably need to do that. But what I was able to do is basically see, this is where we are. These are our investments. There's why do I need to get into the weeds? I don't need to get into the weeds. I can go and say, this is how much I have. We're going to assume a 7 or 8%, return. Factor out, how much I'm putting in, how many years from now we want to retire. Does it get me to my number? Like, I don't need to make that harder than it needs to be. So that's all I did.
Very good. Okay. So you made the decision. Did you have any big fears or hesitations, or where were you at with the confidence level of your decision?
It's funny. I actually came to terms with the idea pretty quickly. And once I saw that the numbers worked, and let me be a little bit more specific about how the numbers worked. I basically, I know that my husband wants to work till 2028, mainly because he has a son who's in college and he wants to get him launched, right? So I'm like, okay, we know he's going to retire in 2028. If we didn't save another dollar and just let our investments grow just naturally over the next, 4 years, where does that get us? And it got us to our number. So I'm like, okay, so we can bring our savings all the way down. So basically by reducing, because we were oversaving really, then we reduced that amount, and that kind of now goes into the Kristen category, if you will, because the whole idea was I'm not going to go part-time if then I've got to really reduce my lifestyle. Now, look, I'm not trying to live bigger, but I'd like to be able to maintain the same lifestyle, right? So we just sort of moved what was the savings before into the Kristen column, and we're making that work. So that's kind of how that happened. But once I saw that the numbers worked, and once I kind of had my pitch for my boss, I had a pretty good idea that they would go for it just because it was really a win-win situation for them. And they did, and they went for it. But apparently, I'm the first person. This isn't anything that happens in TV news. Like, people in TV news just don't go part-time. So they didn't really know what to do with me. They were actually really surprised. I think they thought I was going to quit. But They liked the idea, but they didn't know. They're like, how is this going to work with your benefits? And do we need to do a new contract? Like, it took them a while to figure all that out. But once I, like I said, knew how I was going to pitch it, knew that it was win-win for everybody, knew that the numbers were going to work, I was good. No concerns.
Very good. And can you talk about like how many hours you were working before, like what was full-time for you? And
Yeah.
what were the expectations? And then what did you move it to?
Yeah. So I was a 40-hour-a-week job. My shift, I was the weekend evening meteorologist. And then 3 days a week, if there was nothing going on, like nobody was on vacation, nobody was sick, there wasn't any big weather, I would usually do some kind of reporting. Now, not hard news, mind you. I'm not covering like homicides and, things like that, fires. It would be environmental reporting or, Kristen live from the zoo with the new seal babies. It was fun, fluffy stuff. But it's not what I wanted to do, and I didn't enjoy it. It stressed me out. I just wanted to do weather. So I basically just went to him and was like, hey, look, you don't really need me for this stuff during the week. It actually creates a problem for them because they have to find a photographer to send out with me because I don't know how to edit my own stuff and I don't know how to shoot my own stuff. So I feel like it created an issue for them. What are we going to have Kristen do today? Kristen's here today. Great. What story are we going to give her? So by taking that away, they've now saved 60% of what they were paying me. They've got me when they need me, which is the weekends. And then I made a promise to them that I would work very closely with our chief meteorologist, who's our Monday through Friday evening person, to try not to be on vacation at the same time as him. So I would be available to cover for him when he's out of town, which is another main thing that they need me for. So it really was a pretty easy sell. And I'm fortunate in that way because I know some people had a unique situation. I think that made that a little bit easier for me.
Okay. And out of curiosity, so what do they do for the reporting pieces that you were doing during the week, which sounded like just like whatever they could come up with?
Yeah.
What did they do?
I was just extra fluff. They didn't need me. They can throw in some other hard news piece that they pull off the wires. Like, it was not a big deal. Not a big deal.
Okay. So you went down to like 15 hours or something like that?
Yeah, like 16 hours a week. Yeah.
Okay.
Now I do fill in a good bunch, if somebody's, like I said, sick, on vacation, we have active weather or whatever it is. But like this week, I'm just working Saturday and Sunday, and that's most of the time.
Okay. So we'll get into some of your leisure activities and what you do with the new time that you have now. But do you find that the 16 hours, the couple days a week, is a good amount for you to work? Is it the right spot for you?
It feels pretty good to me. Yeah. Now, if I pick up an extra day during the week, that's fine too. It's fine. It feels good. I was a little worried in the beginning that all of this extra time was going to be problematic, and it has not been. I find ways to fill it.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. I remember when you first told me that you were going to go part-time, you mentioned that you had many activities planned.
Yeah.
And what did you have planned? Because you're a
so
busy
worried.
person, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I like to be. I was talking to a friend about this at lunch today, and it's just so silly, but I'm one of these people who feels like I need to be productive all the time. And if I'm not being productive, it makes me feel lazy, which kind of makes me feel depressed, which makes me lay around even more, get even more depressed. It's a vicious cycle. So I knew when I was going to part-time, I was like, I can't let that happen. I've got to plan all these things to keep myself busy. So I signed up for a pottery class. I signed up for cooking classes. I signed up to volunteer at the Humane Society. I started working more on health and wellness and working out more at the gym. So I was filling my time. So it has not been a problem. If anything, I've kind of had to dial back on some of those other things.
Okay. Yeah. Let's talk about some of those leisure activities that I have an interest in. So one is cooking. So what kind of stuff were you doing in the cooking classes? Were you an accomplished cook before, or what?
I am about as an accomplished of a cook as I am an Excel spreadsheet expert.
Okay.
So no, this was kind of very much a basics class. I don't cook as much as I should or I would like, mainly because I feel like it takes me forever to do everything because I'm not efficient. And I feel like there's ways to be more efficient that I just was never taught. So I just wanted to learn those basic things like, chopping vegetables and just basic stuff. So that was enjoyable, and I am cooking a little bit more now. Yeah, nothing fancy.
Okay. So kind of basic. What was maybe your most successful thing that you cooked in the class?
I was just excited that I learned how to chop an onion better, honestly, in all fairness. I mean, everything was grouped. Like you chop that, We made some pretty good stuff. But a lot of it, here's the thing, a lot of the stuff in class had like so many different ingredients and so many steps, and it took so long. I'm never cooking like that in real life. It's not happening. I want few ingredients. If it's going to take me more than 40 minutes to do, I'm not doing it. So I don't know that I'll ever recreate any of those recipes, but I just wanted to get more efficient at what I am doing at home.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Like I grew up cooking. It's like big in my family, and I watched so many cooking shows and have a ton of like recipe books and like different techniques. And I just watch like tons of Food Network over the years. But I was going to say, like, I feel like if you do it a lot, you end up developing like some intuition where it's like, yeah, it's complicated. I'll look at a recipe and I'm like, I could cut this out. And if you look them up online, like half the time the recipes suck because it's not like a food scientist, like a recipe creator did it. It was just like some jerk on the internet that wrote it down, and it's not that great. So you actually can improve on it. But anyway,
I don't have that intuition. That has not come from me yet.
it took like 20 years or whatever. But yeah, like, you bump into people that, and I can do this. It's just like there's random stuff in the refrigerator and a couple cans of something. And it's like I can usually make something pretty good from whatever we have like left over in the cupboard or random stuff like that. So, but it takes many years. It takes a lifetime to master, like any good skill. Okay. So food stuff. And then what about the fitness? So you said you're going to the gym more. Did you get a trainer? What are you doing?
So I'm at the stage in my life where some things are starting to change, and us ladies of a certain age, things become different for us. So when I first moved to part-time, I decided to just do this big deep dive into women's health and learning as much as I could about some of these topics. And one of the things that I learned for women of my age is that it's really important to try to not only maintain, but even put on muscle. So I was going to fitness classes where everything changes every class. And I'm like, this method doesn't really work. I need to do a program and, really need to lift heavy and start to develop more muscle on my body. I'm not trying to be Arnold Schwarzenegger. I mean, I think a lot of women are like, oh, I don't want to bulk up. You're not. Good luck with that. It's not going to happen. That doesn't happen for us. But I definitely am trying to put on some because, first of all, I'm learning that muscle is the kind of organ of longevity. It also protects our bones. And that's something that we women have some problems with as we get older. So I've really been working on that and trying to dial in my nutrition a little bit more. That's the cooking part of it as well. But no, I did not get a trainer, but I've worked with trainers over the years. So I feel pretty good about form and stuff like that already. I did buy a little program online just to give me some ideas about a few things, but I'm mostly doing it solo.
Okay, cool. Well, I won't try to give advice on women's health. That's definitely not,
Thanks.
not my lane. But I like putting on muscle. Yeah, it's super hard to do. So yeah, no one worry about it. You could lift really hard and it's still hard to put on muscle. So, Okay. So let's get back into, work and leisure. It sounds like you found kind of the right balance without having to experiment too much. Maybe you had too many activities and you actually needed a little more free time, but like, can you, I guess, expand on that if I miss something, and how can people sort of dial in if they're like, okay, I'm not sure how much I want to work, but I know I want to work a little bit less. Like, how did you arrive at a balance that seems to work for you?
I added more than I needed to and then just started subtracting until it got to a place that felt comfortable. But you know what I really think? I think if you're like me and you're somebody who needs to feel busy and productive all the time, this is not going to be a problem for you. Right? Because we overthink it already. I think it's the people who just all of a sudden have this free time and have never thought about what that's going to mean. They're the ones that might run into some issues about, oh no, what do I do with this time? Oh, I hit 5, now what, right? I'm an overthinker. And those of us who do that, right? I mean, I thought it through so much. It's never going to be an issue. If you're worried about it, those are the people who it's probably not going to be an issue for.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I mean, I have to, luckily I'm somewhere in the middle, so I'm okay like doing a little bit less. And I'm like, okay, like a down day is actually good. I feel better when I do that. But yeah, sometimes sitting around, I'm like, it's a good day to like get something done. Like, what should I get done today? Like, what list do I need to create to
Mm-hmm.
accomplish stuff? And then,
Are you a
thinking of,
list person too?
yeah, I have like lists all over the place,
Look at
and
this. I
yeah,
mean,
it's a
can you see my
mess.
Post-it notes?
Yeah, I
Okay,
have like
I
50 of them.
gotta.
I can't show you.
So you're a
So
Post-it
much.
note
Yeah.
person too. I have to tell myself. We were talking about the Excel spreadsheets. This is a calendar. I don't put it in my phone. It's
Hmm.
actually.
A physical.
I don't know what's wrong with me. I who knows? I don't know.
Yeah. No, I
Me
have
and
like
tech are just
notebooks.
not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It took us just a short 20 minutes to get the microphone set up and
Stop
everything, but
it. Stop
no,
it.
no, it was very fast, super fast. Okay. So it sounds like people can sort of assume some amount of activity if they're sort of busybodies and they're always doing something anyway. They probably don't have to worry about it. And maybe some empty space could be good for them psychologically, which
Hmm.
did you run into any sort of like emotional or psychological challenges when you were transitioning, or was it pretty natural because you knew what you were walking into?
The challenges that I ran into were more external. I knew the numbers were fine. I knew it was going to be cool with work. I do worry a little bit about work going forward because they haven't told me you can only take off this many weekends per year. They've just kind of said, well, if you're never around when we need you, that's going to be a problem. And I'm like, well, what does that mean? So I'm a little nervous about pushing up against this invisible boundary that I don't know where it is because I'd like to take off more time to travel, but I'm like, how much is too much? I guess I'm just going to push and see where it goes and then see what happens. I guess that's the value of FU money, right? But so I do worry a little bit about that. But the one thing that happened that I wasn't anticipating when I first sat down with my husband and explained all these numbers to him, he is not a numbers person. Big ideas, not his thing. Change, not his thing. Okay. But I sat down and I was all excited and I went through all the numbers and it was all very black and white and this is how it's going to work. Okay, cool, fine. And then once we got in it, he kind of freaked out a little bit and he was like, wait, now how's this going to work again? Now, what am I doing? Now, where's this money going? How am I going to pay my bills at the end of the month? And I'm like, oh my God, we talked about this. I've sat down and showed you these numbers. How many times do you want to go over the numbers again? I think, again, he's a little resistant to change and numbers and money, aren't his strong point. He lets me handle that for us. I think it was just going to take a few months of being in it and doing it this new way to see that it was going to work, to see that there was money left at the end of the month to pay the bills. And now that we've been in it for a while, that's kind of settled down. But for a minute, that made me I was like, what? I've already moved to part-time. I can't go back now. You already said you're okay with this and I've made the move. You got to be okay with this. But this is actually kind of a funny story. I think in the non-FI world, when someone goes part-time and reduces their income significantly, they probably cut back their expenses. That's probably a normal thing to do. Well, I wasn't going to do that. I mean, the whole purpose of cutting back on work was to do more of the things that I enjoyed. I wasn't going to be cutting back in my lifestyle at all. I mentioned it earlier. I wasn't going to go bigger, but I wanted to at least maintain it. And, one of the things he said, which kind of caught me off guard, he was like, well, you get to have your cake and eat it too. And I'm like, well, yeah, that's the point. But that's kind of how it is in the way we think about things, right? Like, let's make our world better. And this is how I was making mine better. So then he kind of pivoted and was like, well, I feel like I should get something. What do I get? And I'm like, well, what do you want? You don't want to work any less. You don't want to retire any earlier. Like, what do you want? And he goes, I think I want a truck. Long story short, he now has a truck. But I feel like I did good. I've made some good inroads with him over the years because he bought a Toyota, he bought it used, and he paid in full. Which, 10 years ago, it would have not been a reliable brand. It would have been financed and it would have been new. So score.
That works.
I tell you what, though, ever since he got that truck, I haven't heard a word about my part-timedness. Not a word.
That's great. Yeah. Trucks are expensive now.
Yes.
They're very
But it was
expensive.
used, so that
Yeah,
took a nice little chunk off.
that's cool. Okay. So anything else with like family or friends or even your colleagues like going part-time, were they like, what are you doing? Did anyone have unsolicited advice for you?
I think they were surprised. I don't have a whole lot of them asking me questions about how I've done that, but this actually brought me some joy. There was a gal who has two young kids who was pretty much ready to quit because she wanted to spend more time with her family, and she thought that was her only option. And they were like, "Well, why don't you just do what Kristen's doing and go part time?" And she's like, "Wait, what? I didn't know that was an option." So now she's part time too. So I started something. So that makes me happy.
That's great. And you mentioned earlier they like didn't know what to do with you, so you sort of like paved the way so maybe other
Mhm.
people could do it more easily. And can you talk about like maybe hypothetically like what happens with the benefits when you drop down, below a certain
Yeah.
threshold or anything like that?
Well, I'm in a unique situation in that a lot of my benefits are through our union, which is the SAG-AFTRA union. So by going down to part-time, I think in a lot of jobs, you might lose your medical benefits. I did not because mine are through the union, and the union rules are simply that as long as I make, I think it's something like $29,000 say I make $29,000 this year, at least $29,000 this year, then I'm eligible for health insurance for the whole following year. So as long as I stay above that number, I'm eligible, which I plan for now to do. So in that regard, I didn't have to consider that. Now, the other things that I did lose, long-term disability, short-term disability, paid time off. But because of FI and, living the principles that we live and being at this point in my FI journey, I'm not worried about those things anymore because we've got the money put away if any of those things were to come up so that those things weren't really needed anymore.
Got it. So what does a typical week look like for you? If you could walk us through, you could start us on like a Monday. You have like plenty of activities set up, but you've dialed those down and then you have to work a little bit. So what does
Let
it
me
look like?
consult my calendar.
All
Let's
right.
see what we got here. Okay. No, I tell you what, I do love not having to get up to an alarm. Oh my gosh. The joy of sleep. I have thoroughly been enjoying that. I usually try to get the gym out of the way in the morning, but I'll spend a ton of time there because I enjoy it. I might be at the gym an hour and a half, 2 hours. I'm able to have more lunches with friends, which is great. And like I said, I've developed a FI community here in St. Louis through our local group. So I do have other friends that I could just today. Met one of my FI friends for lunch because she is a lady of leisure as well. She doesn't work at all anymore. She retired in the last year, but I have some friends like that I'm able to do those things with. I do volunteer. I'm volunteering at the Humane Society. So one day a week, I do that for about 3 hours. And then home projects, things like that. Let me see. I have a friend tomorrow morning I'm going to meet for a walk. I do spend some time on putting together my meetups for our St. Louis Choose FI group. We do about 2 a month now. So I work on stuff like that, sending out reminders and such, making posts. I'm taking a pottery class right now. So I've been experimenting with that. On the wheel, the little wheel that spins around,
Mm-hmm.
that is hard. Well, I've
I
only had
bet.
one class, but that is harder than it looks.
Yeah.
So
Carl and
yeah,
I are actually signing up together to do like a couples pottery class.
stop it. You lie. Shame on you. No, it's fun though. So I just kind of I'm able to do more of these things that I enjoy. And when opportunities come up to go and have lunch with a friend or to go meet a friend for, happy hour, or whatever it is, I can do that. So I just have a lot more downtime, me time, which I find so extremely valuable.
Yeah, I can't imagine having to wake up to an alarm like on an ongoing basis. We got to get up for a flight here or there or, some special occasion. But yeah, it's been several years since I've had to set an alarm. And I'm dumber and I'm grouchy if I don't get enough sleep, like right off the bat. Like there were a couple of days last week, we had a couple of things out and we were just out a little bit later. So I think I only slept like 6 hours a night for like 3 nights in a row. And then
Why not just sleep later though? I don't get it.
well, I don't sleep later very well.
Mm.
So I haven't, like, it's tough for me to sleep past like 6 or 7. Plus, I like to keep the same routine with our dog and everything.
Oh,
So
I see.
she would be okay, but it's usually better. And I do like waking up a little bit early, but yeah, I should take a nap. That's the thing. I actually
Yeah.
enjoy naps, but I also like caffeine. So I end up drinking like too much coffee, and then I'm like kind of blows the nap time frame between
Mm,
like noon and 3. Are you a napper?
no, but I also don't get up before 9 a.m. So I don't really need
Oh,
one.
wow. And it's no issue. You could just like sleep till 9 or whatever, or
Yeah,
10.
but also consider that I'm doing the news at 10 p.m. on Saturday and Sunday nights. So by the time I get home and like chill out and I'm able to go to sleep, it's at least midnight, if not later. So I just tend to keep a consistent schedule through the week. So because I do those nights and I've got to be, wide awake and pretty perky on the 10 o'clock news, right? So I just tend to keep later hours during the week.
Got it. That totally makes sense. Yeah. And we usually go to bed like pretty early, say like 9 to 10 or so most of the
Yeah.
time. So yeah, it's just like shifted, and I'm much better like earlier in the day. So, okay, we
But
won't
sleep is
record it.
so important though. It's like,
Yeah.
I mean, health, right? So much of our health is wrapped up into good sleep. And for years in TV news, oh my gosh, there's some crazy hours. I did the mornings for not in St. Louis, but in another market where we'd be on the air at 4 a.m. So I'm at work at 2 a.m. It almost killed me. I did that for 3 years. Ugh. I don't know how they do it. It's the worst. I was just exhausted and miserable all the time.
Yeah. That'd be really, really tough. So, okay, so your week sounds pretty good, pretty social, a lot of fitness. You're waking up late whenever, I guess the sun's up for a little while by
You.
that time. Yeah. So, is there anything that you're thinking about doing differently, like through your weeks or anything like that, like as you're adjusting, or is it pretty dialed in right now? You're happy with it?
I'm pretty happy with it. I feel like I'm in sort of an experimentation phase in my life, right? Where I'm just seeing like this pottery class. Like, I don't know if I'll continue doing pottery after this class, but I wanted to try it out because it sounded interesting, and maybe it becomes a new hobby, maybe it doesn't. But I'm experimenting with this different things. And, the volunteering with the dogs, that brings me a lot of joy and sense of purpose. These are dogs. It's called the Kennel Enrichment program. And I literally go into the kennels with these dogs and spend one-on-one time with the idea that, you love on them and give them pets and work on their commands. And the idea is you're making them hopefully more adoptable, right? And I really feel like doing some good in the world doing that, right? So maybe I do more of that. We'll see where it goes. And then I have a few other little hobbies that I've kind of started to spend a little bit more time on. And I know you know about one of them. Is this the one you want me to talk about that? Should
Sure,
we dive
go for
into
it.
that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when I first started thinking about part-time work, I mean, there was a lot of reasons. I mentioned those at the top, but one of them was I want to travel more. And I just have this wanderlust gene, right? I just love to see the world. I mean, there's a big world out there. And I don't know where that came from because I didn't grow up traveling at all, but very passionate about, world travel and exploring different cultures and foods and the way people live and architecture and history. So I've already been doing as much of this as I could in my free time. I took a pretty epic trip through the 5 different countries in the Alps this past summer. Last December, I spent 2 weeks touring all over Egypt. So kind of trending more toward the exotic, I suppose. I'm in a place in my life where I'm ready to do more of that. So I started thinking, it's very kind of organic how this all came together for me, but I knew I wanted to travel more. I knew I loved hanging out with my 5 friends and I wanted to do more of that. But I also know that there's a lot of 5 people that like to travel. I also know that they don't all necessarily enjoy planning the travel. So it's like ding, 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 light bulb went off in my head. Well, what if I could combine this? I mean, as a matter of fact, I was kind of already doing it on a smaller scale. I had some of my 5 friends with me in the Alps. I had some of my 5 friends with me in Egypt. Why not just do this on a bigger scale and do trips just for the 5 community? So this has kind of been born in the last few months, if you will. I've called it 5 Friends Travel. And I just launched my very first trip, which is a European river cruise for Christmas 2025 to see the Christmas markets. It goes from Vienna to Nuremberg, and I'm super excited about that. I'm working on a Portugal trip for the spring. I'm working on a sort of best of Morocco type trip, kind of like I did in Egypt, but in Morocco for next fall. So we'll see how it goes. But I feel like there's demand. I mean, you see these FI events that get added in the community, like Amberly and her Fintalks cruise, right? She didn't think that was going to blow up like it did, but look at it. It's huge, and it sells out. You have CampFI for the first time ever going international in Spain in April, and all 50 spots sold out in 38 minutes. He had to add a second week, which wasn't even, he never thought that was going to happen. So there's clearly a demand for people in the community getting together with other people in the community in interesting places, right? So I just decided to take it a little bit of a step further. It's not going to be for everybody, and I get that, but do things a little bit bigger, maybe a little bit more exotic, because there's nobody doing that yet. I don't want to step on the toes of the people that are doing the things they're already doing. Let's do something different.
Got it. And can you actually talk a little bit about the price point? Because, I mean, the thing is, like, there's a wide range, and I think our show in particular, like, it caters to like more post-FI or more advanced FI like topics and lifestyle. And like many of us are like either fat FI or we like want to spend money on things that we find valuable.
Well, then this is for you.
Okay. So there's a wide range. There's like the more frugal side, and then there's this is the more premium side.
Here's the deal. You've worked for a long time. You're a Carl. You realize you don't need to be the richest man in the graveyard, and you need to get out there and start having experiences, right? Let's go make those memory dividends. I think the book Die with Zero really hit a lot of us, and we realized, let's get out there and let's have these experiences together. So this is an outlet for those people. It's not all going to be top tier stuff. As a matter of fact, when I started talking about doing this Christmas cruise, here's the thing. River cruising is expensive. River cruising versus a Caribbean cruise, like two totally different animals, right? These boats, I think the average passenger is like 150. So obviously that drives up the price, but it's also, I think the crew to passenger ratio is something like 3-to-1. So it's really great service and high-end food and things like that. However, when I started talking with a few people in the community about it, who you might call fat FI, they're like, oh yeah, I'm working on booking some European river cruises for my family right now. And the price point was like $10,000 a person. I was like, oh my gosh, this is not that. But the cruise that I just launched is $3,200 per person, double occupancy. So as far as river cruises go, it's one of the more accessible lines, really, without losing the quality. It's with Avalon. It's why I chose them. Which, by the way, you told me that you took an Avalon cruise.
Right. Yeah. For our honeymoon, that's the only cruise that I've been on. I've only been on a river cruise. We went from Amsterdam to, did we come to Baghdad? I don't remember where we went. It was through Netherlands and Belgium. We drank a lot of beer, which is why I don't remember the exact thing. And it's been a few years, but it was fantastic. Again, only cruise that I've been on, but there will be a time when I go on a big cruise. I think that could be down the road. But the thing is, the smaller ship it fits my preferences much better. The food was awesome. The drinks were included. Everything was included. All the excursions.
Yeah, even the excursions, right.
Fantastic. So if you wanted to go on it, you just sign up, show up on time. And funny story, we were drinking a lot in Antwerp. We almost missed the boat going.
Oh,
yeah. Well, we were drinking a little bit, so it was a little hard to find our way back to the boat. But we made it back as they're like, blowing the horn or whatever, telling us to get back on. But anyway, Avalon was super awesome, and I couldn't remember the name of the cruise line. But when we were chatting, you were like, "Oh yeah, that's the one. That's the one."
Yeah. So I chose them because I felt like the price point was a little bit more accessible than the $10,000 per person cruise, but I don't feel like the quality really suffers. Like the reviews are really good. I also like that they've really been doing more active excursions. So they've started to draw in more 40-somethings and 50-somethings, where I think a lot of river cruises have the reputation of like everybody's over 70, right? I think there would be, not that we care. I mean, we're going to be amongst ourselves, but I just like that they have more active options. So that's the price point on that. And then I'm still working on putting together the other ones. But look, we're not going to be staying in hostels. We're not going to be camping. I can't see ever doing less than a 3-star hotel. I'm probably not doing any Ritz-Carltons or Four Seasons either, if that kind of gives you the vibe for what we're looking at here. But comfort's important. I was talking to a friend today. I'd like to put together an African safari for 2026. So that's a ways off. But I was saying, look, there's going to be warm showers. There's going to be flushing toilets. There's going to be a comfortable bed. I'm sorry. I'm not letting go of those things. I am of a certain age and I have worked hard and I deserve a warm shower.
All right. That's great. I just want to let people know that, yeah, if you're looking for this kind of thing, because I think you're right, looking at the different events that have been selling out, like EconoMe sold out like way ahead of time. Mm-hmm. And I know it's a completely different thing, but like we're all so interested in going to in-person events and like taking advantage of the community. And like now so many of us know each other and maybe we only see each other a couple of times a year at some event, but like this is a perfect way to go with like a smaller group, which is what's the target for this? Do you have any scope of like what
for how many people?
Group? Yeah.
Honestly, man, I would love to fill up half of the boat. They say it averages like 150 people, but it is that higher price point. So honestly, I guess we're just going to find out together. I'm not sure. I mean, I've got a few bookings so far, but it is still at this point more than a year away. I imagine as the inventory starts to shrink, people are going to start booking as I let them know that there's only so many cabins left. We're going to get some more. I have no idea. I don't know. I think maybe we could end up with 20 people, but maybe I'll be surprised and we'll end up with more. Miss Mindy Jensen suggested she was interested. I don't know if she's going to come or not, but maybe if I get somebody like her on board or maybe a Carl or, I don't know. People might, I have no idea where this is going to go. My crystal ball is on the fritz today.
We've literally looked at the exact cruise that you were booking. So we've seriously looked at it, but as people know, we have Georgie, the dog. So it's like, it makes it harder for us to travel.
But your wife could go without you.
Yeah, we're looking. She said to let you. She's still thinking about it. She's like, okay. Yeah, she spent like half a day like doing additional research and thinking about it, and like she's still. So we'll talk offline. But yeah, I think you're in a spot where you could like get 20, 25 people. I don't think that would be. Yeah,
I feel like that's probably where we'll land. Very much a guess. One of the other things I wanted to point out too is I'm not actually planning any FI programming per se. And I don't know how people are going to react to that because I know a lot of these events, it's a lot of FI programming. But the way that I look at it is we're there to travel together and create memories. And those conversations are going to happen. Let's be real. You get a bunch of FI people together. We're talking about it, right?
Yeah. Well, the other thing is like if you end up with, a podcaster or two that has like a little mobile setup. Like I know Mark Troutman, Mark's Money Mind, he recorded on Amberley's cruise for the Fin Talks, or what is it called?
Fin Talks Cruise.
Fin Talks Cruise. Mm-hmm. There's so many FI things. I know. Like jumbled in my head now. But he recorded some and like sometimes like just doing like one of those, like someone potentially would step up. But yeah, I mean, honestly, when I think about some of the events, it's like, I don't want there to be too much programming because I feel like the free time is like the most fun time.
Right.
And
yes,
I don't want to feel like I got to, sit down for too long in one spot.
I'm hoping I can get Mark on this one. He seemed very interested in these trips. He's actually part of what encouraged me to do this. I started talking to him at EconoMe earlier this year and he's like, I love it, plan it, let's do it, And then in May, I was at CampFI in Virginia and he had me on his podcast just talking about community and he kind of put me on the spot and he was like, hey, we talked about this travel stuff. Where are you with that? It's like, you got to get moving. And I'm like, oh gosh, I guess I better do something. Right. So he's very much been like, build it and I'll be there. So I'm hoping that he joins us. We'll see.
Well, he's the man.
Again, there's not a whole, there's just not a whole lot of, it's 14 months away at this point. So I get that, the pricing is locked in for everybody in my group. So I see that there's not a whole lot of reason to book 14 months out. But as the inventory starts shrinking, I imagine things will kind of start to pick up.
Cool. So I know you have a website, and we'll let you mention it in a second, but there is an email list. So if people want to stay informed, is the email list the best way to do it?
Yeah, it's on the website.
Okay, perfect. Well, as we're wrapping up here, I know, like I said, we can go on and on for days, but we do have to finish up. So what is the most valuable lesson you've learned from this experience so far?
This experience being talking to you today?
Yeah, we'll start there, and then we'll go one level up to the semi-retirement Coast Fi. But yeah, I do want to hear about what you think of this conversation too.
I love talking to you. You know that, though. We always have a good time together. You know, Doug and I have done some karaoke together, everybody. Maybe you can, Doug kind of just sort of shimmies a little bit. He doesn't sing a whole lot. He just kind of. Yeah.
Shimmy is a generous way to describe it.
You know the Elaine dance from Seinfeld? No, this was a lot of fun. I was really looking forward to it. What have I learned from this whole experience? You know, honestly, how grateful I am for this freaking community. I was thinking about it earlier today. I'm just like, it brings me joy. It gives me a sense of purpose. It gives me confidence. It gives me a sense of belonging that I've never had at any point really ever in my life before meeting this community. I can't overestimate that enough. Like when I first started going to these events and just immediately feeling so connected to all these people. So for me, man, yeah, if it wasn't for this community, I would not be in this place. I would have not, first of all, ever had the idea or the confidence to do any of this. So for me, it all just comes back to just being so appreciative that I found this community and that I've been going to these events and I've made such incredible friends. And it's really changed my life. Like I can't even imagine what life would be like if it weren't for this community right now, really.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. So would you give any specific advice to someone in a similar situation that wants to go part-time and sort of semi-retire? And any specific advice?
Come up with a good plan for pitching it to your employer and make it seem like it's a win-win for them as well, right? You need to show them how it'll benefit them. And I know the bottom line, the budget was going to be a big deal for my boss. So saving the money was a big one, right? But definitely think that through. It's not all about you. I mean, we can think it's all about us, but let them think that a lot of it has to do with them. Help them out, right? Solve their problems. Don't create a problem. Solve their problem for them. Anticipate that. I know there's a lot of fear in people about making these big changes and going to your employer, whether it's going part-time or taking a sabbatical. And then you hear the stories of the people that did it. And you hear things like, they're like, well, okay, well, I guess I'm turning in my, resignation. And like, wait, no, we can work something out, right? You're valuable and you might be surprised by what they'll work out for you, because going and finding a new you is pretty challenging. So I would just say, don't be scared. We all have that FU money for a reason. Take advantage of it and, go for it. What's the worst thing that can happen? Really?
Awesome. Kristen, it's been really fun. Where should people find you?
So the website is FiFriendsTravel.com. I know you'll include that in the show notes. If you go to the website, you can sign up for the newsletter there, where I will send out emails when I launch any new trips. Of course, the trips are posted on the website as well. There's also a place there where you can shoot me an email, but I will tell you my email just in case you want to do that. It is Kristen@FiFriendsTravel.com, which if you would kindly include that in the show notes as well.
Got it. All right. And you're going to be joining me for future episodes. And I can't remember the topics, but I think they're very exciting.
Really exciting. Really exciting. And of course, I know it's only fall, but you'll be at EconoMe in March, right?
Yep. We'll be at EconoMe.
So much fun. I hope more people listening start to come to these in-person events, because it really is life-changing. Not so much people are like, oh, well, I don't know who the speakers are. Listen, this is so much just about community. And once you step your foot in, you're just going to be hooked. You're going to be hooked.
That's awesome. All right, Kristen, thanks. We'll talk soon.
Thanks, friend.
Thanks for listening to the show. That was the Mile High Fi podcast, and I'm Doug Cunnington. If you dig the show, please do 3 things for us. Number 1, tell a friend, a family member, an enemy about the show. We really don't care who you tell. Maybe forward them a specific show that you know that they will like. It's the single most helpful thing that you can do to spread the word. It's like giving us a virtual high five, and actually we don't give high fives in person, so the virtual kind's pretty good. And more importantly, your friend or family member or even your enemy will appreciate the fact that you were thinking of them. Number 2, make sure you're following or subscribed on your podcast app, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Overcast, YouTube, whatever you're using, and that way you won't miss a show. And number 3, please leave us a rating and review. We read them on the show occasionally, and you might hear yours out there on an upcoming episode. Quick disclaimer, this show is not financial or legal advice. I'd actually be surprised if it sounded like it. It's really just for entertainment, and that's at least what we're hoping for. But seriously, get advice from professionals. So we'll catch y'all next week. You were just holding your, it looks like a Halloween costume, stitched up finger. What's
My Frankenfinger.
Yeah, what is that? Gross.
So, now that I'm part-time, I started exploring all these new hobbies. And one of them was I took a cooking class, and I specifically took a knife skills class. And in that knife skills class, we learned how to, the proper way to chop different things, including onions. In that class, they also sharpened my knives for me. And guess what happened a week later? Now, I know exactly what I did. I didn't do it exactly the right way I was supposed to do it. It was sliding off the board. So I held it here and pushed the knife through here, and it went all the way through, and it got me pretty good. So, I passed out. I'm on the floor. There's blood everywhere. Yeah. And there's onions and knives on the floor. The dog's what's going on? It's crazy. My husband came home and took me to urgent care, and I got some stitches, but I'm supposed to get these out later today. Do you know what's hard to do when you have a messed up index finger?
What's hard to do?
Everything. Everything.
Yeah.
It's so annoying.
That's right. What kind of knives do you have? What's your primary?
Oh, they're
chef's
not.
Knife?
I don't know. I mean, it's a chef's knife, but a brand name. It's nothing fancy. That I don't think it's fancy.
Okay.
But anyway, they were very sharp, and it went right through. Actually, funny thing, first stitches I've ever had in my life. Wow. I made it to this point in my life without ever having stitches.
That's pretty good.
Fun times.
Yeah, knock on wood, I haven't had to get stitches in a while, but when I was a kid, all the time, I kept bumping my head all over. I have scars all over I don't know what I would just run around head first or something like that. I don't know.
So I actually have a pretty nasty scar right here on my right eyebrow. Honestly, probably should have been stitches when I was a child. I grew up on a farm. I was hurting myself all the time. But we didn't have medical insurance. So guess what you don't get when you don't have medical insurance?
Oh, yeah.
Stitches.
No stitches. Just duct tape that up and
yes. They put a bandana. Let's tie a bandana around her head and tie it really tight. She'll be good.
How many stitches did you get on your finger there?
4.
4. Okay.
Yeah, so and it's Halloween, right? It kind of looks like it's like Frankenfinger.
Yeah, that is terrifying. It's too bad you won't keep them in all through the holiday season. And quick transition off topic. So I haven't asked you specifically, but I think it was baked in. We're going to record some more episodes, and that's one of the reasons why I sent you a microphone. So how's the new mic working for you?
Thank you. I was actually going to ask you about that. I was do I need to ship it back to him today? Do you want me to bring it to you when I come visit Longmont in December? I guess I'm just holding on to it for a while because you're just going to love having me so much as a host. Is that correct?
Yeah. So hopefully this goes well. We always record
hopefully.
the soundchecks. We're going to have to see how it goes, but you're a broadcasting
professional.
Yeah. And you were teaching me new lingo and stuff like that. So, we won't bore the audience with all of that. But yeah, you got a fresh new microphone. It sounds crisp and very good. So, feel free to use it. Yeah, keep it. Potentially you will keep it for like long term, and we'll keep recording periodically and all that kind of stuff. So that's the
I
idea.
love doing this. This is so fun. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. And you could use the mic when you're guests on other shows as well, which makes you sound even more professional.
Okay.
It actually makes a huge difference. Like the audio is like so important, so important.
Very. Speaking of audio, apologies that I sound a little froggy today.
No, I think it's sultry is the word you're looking for, right?
Yeah, this is my sultry voice.